Welcome to New York Gilbert and Sullivan Players' Patterpalooza Project, a unique presentation of classic patter songs from the Gilbert and Sullivan canon, performed for you by members of our professional repertory company. I'm founder and artistic director, Albert Bergeret. What exactly constitutes a patter song? One might suggest that it is a series of words set to a repetitive and rhythmic melodic line, usually, but not always, sung by the central comic character as an introduction to his entrance.
My name is John Wellington Wells. I'm a dealer in magic and spells, in blessings and curses and ever-filled purses and prophecies, witches and knells.
These songs often explain his backstory or current position at varying degrees of speed and elocutionary requirement.
My boy, you may take it from me, that of all the afflictions accursed, with which a man saddled and hampered and addled, a diffident nature's the worst.
As we will see, this description merely scratches the surface of the Gilbert and Sullivan patter song.
After luncheon, making merry with a burning glass of sherry, if we've nothing in particular to do.
In each episode of this project, we will present one of these iconic numbers and then hear from the artists who bring them to life. W.S. Gilbert was a lawyer before he became a playwright, so it is no surprise that one of his favorite subjects for satirical comment was the legal system. In the dynamic duo's first hit, Trial by Jury, the learned judge introduces himself by unabashedly proclaiming that he has attained his estimable position by perpetrating the same crime that he is about to hear in his courtroom, the archaic claim for breach of promise of marriage. Our first patter bite features Stephen Quint portraying this delightful yet thoroughly corrupt judge in When I Good Friends Was Called to the Bar.
When I, good friends, was called to the bar, I'd an appetite fresh and hearty, but I was as many young barristers are, an impecunious party. I'd a swallowtail coat of a beautiful blue, a brief which I'd bought of a booby, a couple of shirts and a collar or two, and a ring that looked like a ruby.
He'd a couple of shirts and a collar or two, and a ring that looked like a ruby.
Westminster Hall I danced a dance like a semi-despondent fury, for I thought I never should hit on a chance of addressing a British jury. But I soon got tired of third-class journeys and dinners of bread and water. So I fell in love with the rich attorney's elderly, ugly daughter.
So we fell in love with the rich attorney's elderly, ugly daughter.
The rich attorney, he jumped with joy and replied to my fond professions. You shall reap the reward of your pluck, my boy, at the Bailey in Middlesex sessions. You'll soon get used to her looks, said he, and a very nice girl you'll find her. She may very well pass for 43 in the dusk with a light behind her.
She may very well pass for 43 in the dusk with a light behind her.
The rich attorney was good as his word, the briefs came trooping gaily, and every day my voice was heard at the sessions or ancient bailey. Or thieves who could my fees afford relied on my orations. And many a burglar I've restored to his friends and his relations.
And many a burglar he's restored to his friends and his relations.
At length I became as rich as the Gurneys, an incubus then I thought her. So I threw over that rich attorney's elderly, ugly daughter. The rich attorney, my character high, tried vainly to disparage.
No!
Yes. And now, if you please, I'm ready to try this breach of promise of marriage.
And now, if you please, he's ready to try this breach of promise of marriage.
For now I'm a judge.
And a good judge too.
Yes, now I'm a judge.
And a good judge too.
Though all my lobby fudge, yet I'll never budge, but I'll live and die a judge.
And a good judge too.
It was managed by a job.
And a good job too.
It was managed by a job.
And a good job too.
It is patent to the mob that my being made a knob. was effected by a job,
And a good
job too.
Now that we've heard and seen the first patter song of the Patterpalooza project, let's meet the man who performed it, Stephen Quint. Hi, Steve.
How do you do?
Why don't you tell us a bit about your background and how you came to perform with Nygasp in general and this role in particular?
Well, it's a pretty basic story. I grew up in Maine, oldest of 7. When I was little, there was music all the time. There wasn't as much on TV then as there was now. So you had to turn it off and put on music, which was mostly classical, show tunes, or jazz. And when the TV was on for little kids, they played silent movies a lot in the morning when I was a kid. I loved them. I loved Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy and those guys. And so did all my friends at school. So there were 2 major influences, the classical music and the silent, physical comedy. I got to 5th grade, I think. Some guy came around, demonstrated instruments, and I wanted to play a band instrument, chose the French horn, loved it from the moment I heard it. So I went to music school in Boston, moved to New York. One night, somebody asked me if I could sub for the New York Gilbert and Sullivan players, play second horn at a rehearsal for Mikado. It was my first time I'd ever heard of Nygasp. I came in, did it. I loved the music. Everybody seemed so happy and peppy and just really seemed to enjoy the material. I think I spoke to Al at some point just to tell him that I knew he was a horn player and so was I. Al was intrigued by me and I kept getting gigs playing in the orchestra. And from there, I kept watching the stage and thinking I should try it myself and auditioned. And lo and behold, next thing I knew, I was the judge. It was beautiful. When I heard that the production of Trial was going to be set in the 20s, I thought, what kind of, it's just a gimmick. But my goodness, it turned out well. It really lends itself. A lot of the music sounds like flappers and the cheap morality that the lead characters have easily could be from the 20s. I think it's just hilarious that Gilbert was writing such out there, brave, scathing, but not so scathing because it was always gentle and you had Sullivan to soften things with the music.
That brings me to a comment about the contrast between this judge, who is so corrupt and so disreputable in a sense, with the other judge in Iolanthe, where the Lord Chancellor is such a sympathetic character and very conflicted about his conflict of interest and possibility.
Right. The learned judge, trial by jury, is basically he's a villain. He'll do anything. He's graft, bribes. He'll consider anything. I think, but he's just such a lighthearted guy. It's impossible not to like him. I love the judge.
You can laugh at the absurdities of it all, and you'll laugh at your own excesses as represented in the Gilbert and Sullivan characters.
Yeah, one of the things I really love about the judge is that his music, his antics, the ones that Gilbert wrote in the book himself, he is a silent movie character. It's very Groucho-like,
Oh, very, and of course those were all 20th century characters who eventually, to some of them, emulated Gilbert. In fact, you mentioned Groucho. Groucho, of course, did a production of the Mikado. Yeah. And that was part of my childhood, was seeing Groucho do the Mikado.
Yeah, it's too bad he never did the judge. He would have been...
Exactly. He would have had a field day with that one.
That's right.
So thank you, Stephen Quint.
One of the things I love about the way Steve Quint sings the judge is that he has the jury buy the whole thing, all the networking and all the unscrupulous behavior, so that when they hear what happens to him, they say no. And the way he says yes is absolutely priceless. He probably won every case he tried before he became a judge. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Patterpalooza Project, an exploration of Gilbert and Sullivan patter songs and the people who perform them. On behalf of New York Gilbert and Sullivan players, I'm Albert Bergeret, and we hope to see you next time for another classic Patter Bite.
For now I'm a judge.
And a good judge too.
Yes, now I'm a judge.
And a good judge too.
Though all my lobby fudge, yet I'll never budge, but I'll live and die a judge.
And a good judge too.
It was managed by a job.
And a good job too.
It was managed by a job.
And a good job too.
It is patent to the mob that my being made a knob was effected by a job.
And a good